For the new players out there, I'm gonna give you the ultimate settings for you to get that advantage.
Okay.
Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. First, I want to start off as a controller player. Most people are better off with having 6 on both horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity, but I suggest using the ADS sensitivity multiplier. This thing slightly decreases your, or could increase your sensitivity as you aim down sight. Putting this down by 0.8, it's a very good starting off point, but definitely get back to this one. I want to quickly touch upon the death zones, as you sometimes will find yourself moving on your own, or your character will in game, triggered by a movement you're not even inputting. And that is the cause of stick drift. Every controller will, depending on usage over time, will experience stick drift, something you can counter in game. Just earlier this week, I had this at free. But starting the game off, I experienced a little of it where I was looking at the map, aiming cursor was moving just a little bit as I wasn't touching the analog stick. Then I had to account for it in here. But getting back to aiming, I suggest dynamic aim response curve. It says it's for the more experienced players, but it's actually because it's adhering more to the moves you make compared to linear, which is directly translated if either you move the stick just halfway or the whole way through, it will trigger the same effect. Whereas if you have it on dynamic, small movement to the analog stick will only make small adjustments in game. Then I would suggest having on target aim assist. We are controller players after all. Might as well make use of the benefit we gain from that. For both controller and keyboard mouse players, we go into the gameplay here. Automatic tactical sprint is theoretically what makes you run faster, traverse the map faster. Single tap run, and then mantling, off with it. You don't want to get stuck in a mantling animation. And while it is a lot faster than the earlier games, I suggest turning it off. Slide dive behavior, on the other hand, this time around, sliding is actually a lot faster, a lot easier to cancel and get your gun up from it, meaning that sliding is very much viable again. But also diving can get you to traverse the map a little faster when you jump off a building or something like that. So I would suggest having those two options still, meaning that you would tap to slide, for example, as I do, and then hold to dive. If you have a controller with triggers on the back, or a mouse with buttons on the sides, I would suggest mapping these two functions independently so that you can have a button for each action. That would definitely gain you the upper hand in lots of gunfights. Plunging underwater, that should definitely be set to free, as you are very limited if you don't have it like that. Parachute auto deploy, I actually forgot to set that off entirely. This is a new feature, which is always, but only when you jump off the plane in the beginning of the game. But if you have it off, you are allowed to get a lot closer to the ground before you pull your parachute. As to it being on automatic, it will literally pull out the parachute 30 meters above the ground, meaning you get stuck there and a setback compared to other people having it off. Of course, more troublesome in competitive setting and not in zombies, but I would suggest having it on off either way. Let's climb behavior, mantle only. Because if you don't have it like that, it will start the mantle animation every time you run up to an object. You don't even have to continue moving in the direction of the object for it to mantle. You can even try and stop before the object and it will still make you mantle. So definitely have that on. Mantle only, slide cancel sprint set to on. This can give you a few milliseconds in a competitive gunfight. And weapon mount delay, have it to instant. I don't know why I had it in short right there. Real quick, I want to thank you for joining here and be a part of my new journey here. It means the world to me that I can provide you with some value, some just trying to grow as a human being. So if you learn anything for this, consider subscribing, because a lot more is coming your way. All right, something important that takes a little to get used to, I would say, that's the interact and reload behavior. You see, when you have both the option to reload and interact with the world, if there's stuff laying around you that you not necessarily want to interact with because you're in a gunfight, I would prioritize reload. As you would tap for reload, hold to interact. Especially battle royale players who at the start of the game just want to get the loadout on the ground, just want to get the weapon out the cache. Then those people will prioritize interacting, because then you can just tap to pick up the weapons instead of holding to pick up a weapon or an equipment or an item in the new zombies mode here. Looting comes a lot faster if you're tapping to interact. But that's depending on you, so keep that in mind. Lastly, set armor plate behavior to apply all. I suggest for this one to be off. Depleted ammo weapon switch. It means that when you run out of ammo completely on the weapon you're holding, it would otherwise automatically switch the weapon to your secondary. But if you are a good enough gamer, you would want to switch weapon yourself to be a big boy about it. Meaning that if I were to switch manually to my secondary weapon while having this on, it will switch automatically for me, and I will do it manually, ending up at the same weapon that's out of ammo. So either one or the other. Either it should do it for you, or you should just get used to doing it yourself. The pinwheel delay here, just set it off. You don't want to have delays during situations where you want to act quick. All right, for only mouse and keyboard players, go get a controller with back pedals instead. No? Okay. I'm sorry, jokes aside, the ideal mouse setups depends on one's arm length and the spacing on the table. But the general rule of thumb is one big sweep of your arm within the bounds of the mouse pad, of course. That should amount to a 360-degree turn, making a full 360 with a full arm sweep. By that calculation, half an arm sweep should be 180. Getting used to that, knowing by muscle memory what length of arm swing you need to do to make a 180 can make a really big difference. So play around with it and see for yourself what makes the best setting for you. Being in the keybinds tab, I suggest utilizing the auto move forward, as it is something you can make a lot of use for looking up maps or your inventory, meaning your character could move on its own while you do these things. Of course, keep in mind that you can still get run over by zombies and stuff like that. Once again, I suggest setting up different buttons for interacting and for reloading. The same goes for the slide and dive behavior. A lot of pros have those buttons independently, either by triggers or side buttons. Keep in mind that these vary from person to person, and it's not a one answer fits all. Have crouch behavior set to toggle, prone behavior set to go to, if you have them separated. This one again, slide dive activation set on independent, automatic sprint, automatic tactical sprint. Here we go. For the PC players, the display mode under graphics should be set to full screen exclusive. And I suggest turning off HDR, as the darker areas of the game turns even darker than a place that the sun don't shine, if you know what I mean. You can also play with LUTs on your screen, which can make the world of a difference in colors only, not in texture, not in pixel formations, anything like that. It's approved by the competitive Call of Duty standards and is not considered cheating, even though you can see a lot better in darker places. NVIDIA Reflex low latency, if you have that, try a game with it on. Try a game with it on plus boost and see what gives you the best performance. For some people, it's 1% more frames per second, and for other people, it doubles it. But if you're GPU limited, consider setting the texture resolution to normal or low. Never set it very low, because especially with texture, very low would make it so that you can't see anything. There's a texture filter, anisotropic it's called. Set that to high. That can do a lot for the visibility while having a very little toll on your GPU. What really hurts your frames per second is particle resolution. That is the only thing you want to set to very low. Otherwise, shader quality, shadow quality, all of them set to normal. Turn off any ambience, any world motion blur, film grain, depths of field. Every one of these is a disturbing factor. You're gonna have trouble seeing past your own weapon if you don't have set as specified. I would recommend having Fidelity FX cast on with its strength set to 100, as it is a very good tool for sharpening your display. Okay, you say hi to streamer. Okay. Best. All right, while I have this needy little baby on me, I can go on. For both console and PC gamers, I suggest setting the brightness to 55. Eco mode. This is not gonna do much, but hurts your experience a whole lot, and I would suggest having this off. Sorry to say. Field of view as high as possible. I would suggest opening up advanced settings on this one and changing ADOS field of view to affected, as it does major difference when you have such a big field of view. Then when you do aim, it will cause some disturbance unless you set it to affected, making it a whole lot more seamless. Weapon field of view should be set to wide, as you're not gonna be able to see your enemy if not. And then I suggest setting all of these camera movement settings to least at 50%. Now, for arguably the most important settings for many people is the audio. For most setups, it's once again a place where one answer doesn't fit all. You should definitely test it out for yourself. But the general rule of thumb is that you would probably want to have it on TV, even though you use headphones. That's because it has a tight range of the frequencies, having your highs be brung a little down and your lows brung up. But if you really want to bring up those footstep noises in game, I suggest using home theater. Even though it has a high range, it's dynamic, so it depends on the frequencies. Always suggest turning off music entirely, because that is distracting as. Of course, these should be set to your preference. All of these is preference also. If you use in-game chat, I would definitely suggest testing your microphone for the level and the sensitivity. Of course, this is way too high, but the open mic sensitivity is the most important thing, as you can get a lot of background noise constantly sent out, so your enemies can be aware of your presence in the vicinity, the ones that use in-game voice chat as well, or your teammates just getting sick of all the background noise. This is how you set the margin for it. So I would suggest reducing tinnitus sound, set to on, set off wall track, as it is music again to distract. Hit marker sound effects can also be distracting, but to many people it's actually a feature that's nostalgic or makes them want to come back for more, because it's satisfying getting that feedback when you kill someone. Last thing I promised was the interface. Minimap shape to square. You can see a lot more of the map because of the edges. Minimap on rotation. My understanding is that you will be more disoriented about which way is north if it's not rotating, and that's pretty funny, because then you should just, by the minimap, look north, right? No, because then you also have to take into account where you are looking currently and have to adjust for that. I would suggest having server latency, packet loss on, so you're always able to see if it's a shitty lobby that you don't need to take seriously. Last thing, the color customization. The filter that actually covers most is filter 2. That concludes my ultimate settings guide for the new Call of Duty. Let me know if you learned anything new, or if there's anything else you want me to cover next. Coming up, an XP exploit for leveling guns so fast. So if you want to get ready for the new Battle Royale coming next month, I suggest you got on to that. But until then, peace out.